Today we're talking all about one of my favorite topics, which is personas. Now, for those who aren't aware, a persona is essentially a character or a role that you give to the AI at a system level. We'll talk a little bit about that. That helps the AI to focus its energy on one area of expertise or helps them to focus their energy around one particular job or type of job. So think of it this way. All AI is trained on billions of parameters, right? All this data. It's essentially the smartest personal assistant in the world. And when you ask it something, when you ask it for to write something for you or ask it a request, it processes that request based on this huge amount of data that it's received. And it's sort of filtering all of its knowledge through these training parameters to kind of come up what it thinks matches your query the best. Now, think of it this way. If you were to go and ask somebody who is a generalist, they know a lot about a lot, right? Think of the smartest person you know who seems to have the answer for everything. Would you go to them about a very specific issue regarding your shoulder blade, an issue with your shoulder blade, or an issue with your knee? No, you probably wouldn't go to a generalist, somebody who knows a lot of things about that. You'd go to a doctor. More specifically, you'd probably go to a specialist doctor who specializes in that particular area. So what we're essentially doing is we're taking AI with these personas from being this generalized, big knowledge database consumer to a very specific role. We're giving it sort of a funnel to filter out all the unnecessary stuff and to focus its energy on a specific area of knowledge. And what you get from that, when you apply a persona or give the AI this role, you get much, much better output. I mean, it is sometimes 10, 20, 100 times higher quality, higher efficacy than any other content out there. If you were to just ask, the default persona that the AI has, because it does have a default. You just may not know it. That's why most people, when they have it write something for them, they say, oh, it sounds like it was written by AI. Probably because it didn't have a persona attached to it. Probably because it was set to its default setting. It has to scan its huge data set and come up with language that matches all of that data set. It's the cumulative effect of all of this data, and it kind of comes out in a generic, vanilla, unspecific type of language. And so this is going to be your opportunity to learn how to really get the most out of AI, to really get that AI content to be 10, 20, 100 times better than just generic AI content. So how do we do that inside of Magai? Well, there are two ways. We've already explored this inside of the chat interface. So let me just open up one of my chats here. And inside of Magai, you have the ability to select your AI model, but also to select your persona. And we went over that a little bit. So you can kind of search through our pre-made personas. These are ones that we've handcrafted in-house that you'll have access to. Now, some of these you see here on my list are ones that are specific to me because I've created my own personas. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how you can create your own personas inside of Magai. So you're going to click over here on the Custom Personas tab. And once you get there, if this is your first time, if you haven't created any personas yet, there will be nothing here. You don't see the public personas here. You only see your custom personas. Now, very soon, there will be a way to sort of browse through a library of personas. That's coming very, very soon, where we open up the community marketplace to share and glean from other people's personas. But that's not here quite yet. So we're going to create our first persona by creating the Create Persona button in the top right-hand corner. Now, it's very, very simple. Yeah, some of you may have created GPTs in ChatGPT before. It's very similar, only in our interface, you just have to write your instructions. So first, you give the persona a name. So we'll just call this new persona. Just as how I approach it, I tend to name the persona very specifically to its task. So if it's a persona that's specifically made to create SEO content, I will call it SEO content writer. Right. So I'll be very specific. That way it's just easy for me to remember and I don't have to guess. I'm not going to name a persona like Bob or Terry. because it won't tell me what that persona's job is. So I tend to be very specific, very literal with these names, but you can get fun with them, I guess, if you want. You can also add an image too, if you want to give your persona a profile picture. So I've just uploaded mine here, just a little 8-bit version of me with short hair. And then we have our instructions panel. Now, in this instructions panel, you're really just going to describe it as if you were describing a job to a new hire. So let's say you own a company and you need to hire a person for a specific job. Think of this as writing that job description. But you're going to write it as if you're speaking directly to that person. So you're going to start it with, you are our, and then fill in the role. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone and pasted in one of our actual pre-made personas instructions just to show you how simple these instructions can be. So I've gone and created a customer support agent. So let me rename this real quick to customer support agent. And I'll read you the instructions that I created here. You are our customer support agent. You provide help and support to customers with their inquiries, complaints, and other related issues. So this is as simple can be. And you may think this is overly simple. How can this possibly be effective? But it actually is. And the reason that it is every AI model that you use, every LLM, every chatbot, is given what's known as the system instruction, or some apps might call it the system prompt, or the developer message. Different companies call it different things, but essentially they boil down to this. It's a set of instructions that the AI has to follow no matter what. This system level message is sort of like the lens that it views all your requests through. Think of it like, rose-colored glasses. It's everything that you give it, it has to see through that lens, and it has to respond in the way as if this system message is its highest priority. So even if you tell it inside of your prompt to take on a different role, it's still going to be obeying first the system level message. And so that's why these instructions are so powerful. It is the most important instruction, the most important prompt that the AI will view everything that you give it through. And it is highly effective. So you're essentially funneling every request now, in this example here, through the lens of a customer support agent. The AI is going to take on that role. Now, let me give you another example that might be a little bit more complex. So here we have one of the personas I created early on in Magai's journey that was really for me to take the latest AI news and turn it into something funny that I can share on social media. So I created the SNL Article Summarizer. And the instructions are, you are an SNL weekend update anchor, Saturday Night Live, for those who may not know what SNL means. The user will give you a news article URL and content, and you summarize them in hilarious ways, just like the news anchors on SNL's Weekend Update do. The summaries should be witty and have a clever punchline. You only respond in the following format. Do not include square brackets. And so in this example, what I've just done, and if you're familiar with Weekend Update from SNL, it's a satirical news segment sketch where they go over the week's news and they make fun of it. And it's hilarious. It's pretty much the only reason I watch Saturday Night Live anymore. And I love it. And so our AI is most likely familiar with the concept as it's been documented for decades now. So I gave it that bit of information, and now I kind of transitioned over to, I'm going to give it an actual format to follow. I'm going to tell it, I've told it here, you follow this exact format. And so what I've done here is I've used what's known as markdown formatting, and I've kind of structured it as, there are a bunch of placeholders here. So you'll see the 2 hash marks here, that's simply markdown formatting for like a heading. And so the AI knows to make this a sort of like a heading, formatted as a, big heading. And then in square brackets here, I have title of the article. So this is just a placeholder, and it's communicating to the AI, this is where I want you to put the title of the article that is given to you. And then I have the next square bracket where it says your hilarious SNL summary. So the AI knows after the heading, it's going to put the hilarious summary and just, however it needs to write it. And then finally, I have at the end link and then a square bracket that says the URL the user gives you here. And so what essentially the AI knows is The user's going to give me a URL, and because in Magai we can detect a URL, we can pull in the content from that URL, that destination page, and we can attach it to your prompt. The AI will have access to that entire web page. So it will know the title of the article. So the AI will then spit out the title of the article, and then it will create this hilarious SNL satire summary of it, and then it's going to paste the link beneath that. And so it's going to follow this structure, and it works phenomenally well. I used it for a long time. I should probably go back to it because it was a lot of fun. But this is one example of, a very simple description, very simple set of instructions, and adding a bit of formatting and structure to guide the AI on how I want it to hand over that content to me. Now let's look at a little more complex example. Now this one is another example of giving the AI a fairly simple, straightforward set of instructions, but also giving it a very structured format to follow. So this one is our social remix persona, which everybody has free access to. And this is actually based on a previous startup that I had, where I spent probably around $20,000 to $30,000 paying developers to build an entire app to repurpose blog posts and chop them up into social media posts. I had this whole software built around this. It took months of development just to take a single blog post URL and turn it into a bunch of social media posts. With the onset of AI, and once I built these personas into Magai, I was able to create this in about 2.5 minutes, and it does actually a better job than that $30,000 software that I built. So let's break this down, see what we have here. So in the instructions I have, you are social remix. You specialize in crafting compelling social media posts from long form articles. Your goal is to convert web page content into engaging bite-sized social media updates tailored to the best practices for each platform. The post should be friendly, conversational, and designed to increase engagement and drive traffic to the original article. Use sentence case, except where headline case is requested. Based on the provided URL and its content, create the following. Do not use square brackets. So again, I'm going to tell the AI who it is, what it's going to do for the user, and I'm going to give it some parameters. So this is another one where the URL is important. Again, taking advantage of Magai's ability to go grab the content from a URL for you. And it's going to deliver it to the AI, and then the AI is going to take that information and it's going to put it into this format. And so, without really doing a whole deep dive on this, essentially I've broken up, all the Facebook posts in a specific format. The first post is going to reword the title of the page as a question, 40 to 80 characters, and add relevant emojis. The second post is a helpful quote from the web page and relevant emoji. Post number 3 is going to summarize the main point. The more Facebook group post is going to reword the title. Next one's going to summarize the main point, so on and so forth. So in my previous business, I created all these sort of templates of, the first post is going to be this from the article, and the second one's going to be this from the article. And I just kind of built this format out based on that methodology, and I just wrote it in plain language that really any human could understand this. I mean, even if they don't understand markdown formatting, they can kind of understand placeholders. So the idea here is if you can create a template or a format that a human can understand, the AI can understand it as well. And you can get the technical term here is deterministic outputs, that follow your exact structures that you have predetermined. So that's probably one of the more complicated examples that I have in terms of structuring. Now here's another one that is fairly complex, and it's one that I recently made, and I'll give you the real world scenario that I created this for. So I haven't done a great job of marketing Magai because I've been so busy actually just building the product and maintaining it, making it better. I don't get a whole lot of time to actually do our own marketing, even though that's what I did for clients for the last 15 years. So I wanted to take some time, and I wanted to write a story to pitch news outlets and do some PR. And usually I would hire a PR company to do, the story writing for me because, it's kind of, it's not the most fun thing to write a story about yourself. I don't know about you, but for me, it's just kind of annoying. I'd rather have somebody else do it for me. But instead of, paying hundreds of dollars to a PR company to write something that maybe they don't have the best insight on because they don't know me as well as I do. I wanted to create a persona that would write a PR story for me and see how good it would come out with this story. And so I wrote a persona, or created a persona called PR Story Writer. And here's exactly what that instruction says. As an expert PR journalist, craft a compelling and irresistible story for PR campaigns that will be favored by media outlets. Begin by gathering necessary information from the user, including input, topical direction, company history, and any specific details they wish to highlight. Use this information to construct a story that effectively communicates the desired message. Now, this is somewhat different than these other personas that we've covered so far. Here I'm actually instructing the AI to make sure that it has all the information it needs, because this is a very complex thing I'm asking it to do. So before it starts writing anything, it's going to check and make sure it has all of this information. If it doesn't have all this information, it's going to request that information from the user. Now, I've also given it some steps to follow, and we'll kind of go through these because I think they're really important, especially when you have a sort of a process in place where you have guidelines that already determines some of the things that you do in your business or in your work. It's really good and really effective to put those guidelines into the persona instructions. And so I've kind of come through I've done a lot of writing over the years, and so I've come to a very standardized sort of writing process, how we kind of evaluate a rubric, so to speak, for our writing process. And so I've kind of just translated that sort of methodology into steps for the AI here. So here are the steps that I have for it. Steps. Number 1, collect information. Ask the user for the topic and direction they have in mind for the PR campaign. Obtain any relevant history or background information about the company or project. Identify key points or themes the user wants to emphasize. Step 2, research and contextualize. Conduct additional research if needed to understand the current trends or relevant angles in the industry. Consider the broader context and how the story fits into current media narratives. So in step number 2, it may actually decide maybe I need to do a web search for current relevant terms related to this user. Step number 3, story crafting. Develop a strong lead or hook to capture immediate interest. Construct the body of the story, ensuring a logical and engaging flow of information. Highlight the unique aspects that make the story newsworthy. End with a compelling conclusion or call to action. So here we have the final step, which is actually crafting the story. And I've added steps that include all the things that I think are important in a good story. So output format, produce a professionally written PR article. The article should be structured with a headline, introductory paragraph, main content divided into sections, and a conclusion. Length should be between 306 to 100 words. Now, just to state what might not be obvious here, AI can't count words. It doesn't have that mechanism built in as it's generating content. All it knows is just generate content. It doesn't have like over to the right, like we would have in our computer, a little word counter. That's not how AI works. But it can roughly understand the generalized length of things. So it can kind of know like, okay, at this point I should stop because it's about this, I've done about this much work so far. Just like a human would. If you were writing on paper, you would probably go, this is about 600 words or so. You might, once you've done that enough. And the last thing here is just some notes. Ensure the story maintains a positive tone and aligns with brand image. Focus on creating newsworthy angles and provide value to media outlets. Consider different formats or multimedia elements that might enhance the story's appeal. So this is a very thorough set of instructions that I've given this AI. Because I have so much experience in this area, I know kind of the things that I want to make sure it covers and the things that I want it to kind of stay within format and structure-wise. So you may have that in your business, in your life. You may have, like I said, guidelines or SOPs that you follow regularly. And if you're creating a persona that you want to adhere to those sort of tasks that would be guided by guidelines or persona or standard operating procedures, absolutely put those in your instructions because they will help the AI to better craft what you want it to do. And let me tell you, I created this persona and I took it into a new chat, selected it from the list, And I gave it just a handful of story points. I wanted this PR story to be more about my journey as the founder and not necessarily just a blatant advertisement. I'm a big fan of mental health and raising awareness for mental health. I had a very difficult journey leading up to the founding of Magai with my mental health, and I wanted to kind of get that story out there to show people who might be dealing with mental health issues that they're not alone. It's something that's very dear to me and something that I want to put out in the world, and I'm willing to, do PR for to raise awareness for mental health. And so that's really what this story needed to be about. It needed to be, emotionally intelligent, and it needed to flow well with, flowing into talking about our business in a relevant way. And so I literally gave it like a handful of bullet points about my journey, the founding of Magai. And because I was using a workspace here in Magai that was already, I already had the details of Magai in there. So the AI already knows about Magai and our business and our features and so forth. I didn't need to preface it with any of that stuff. I could just say, here's the main points of the story tied into, the founding of Magai, and talk about what Magai does. I simply gave it, like I said, a few bullet points, a few sentences of stuff to work with. It asked me no clarifying questions because it already had that built into the system context. And the PR story that it came out with using Claude 3.5 Sonnet was absolutely perfect. I literally had no notes. And that's very rare for me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And oftentimes, most people will say like, oh, AI isn't perfect and you're going to have to edit it a lot. Well, I didn't have to edit what this thing said because I took so much time to properly articulate how this AI should approach the task. And that's really the magic of personas. If you spend the time to craft these personas, you can get amazing results out of them and really just lessen your workload in having to edit and audit things that it produces. And so it's super powerful. And that example was, to date, probably the most powerful example to me that these AI are capable of ready-to-use content if you take the time to give it all of the instruction and all of the context that it needs. Now, let's back all this up because that can be very confusing and complicated. And let me just tell you that there are really only 3 key ingredients to a really good persona instruction. Number 1, you want to tell the AI what role it's playing. You want to tell it who it is. So that's the first thing I would say here. The first thing that you want to put in that persona instruction is who it is. Speak directly to the AI. You are this role. You are this role. And just determine what that is right out of the gate. You are giving the AI a role to play, almost like an actor would take on a role. The second thing is what it does. So different from the actual role, which is more of a title, you want to tell the AI, this is what you do. And you want to be as descriptive as possible. So section 2 here would be what it does. Okay, this is where you describe the actions or the actual things that you want it to output, the task at hand, the task that you created for. And the last thing you need to incorporate is how it helps the user. So here we have, this is the section where you will tell it, you help the user by crafting, exceptional PR newsworthy content in this way and that way. So you kind of detail out, exactly what the user is getting out of it, right? So first part, we're saying this is who you are. This is your role and identity. Next part is these are the things you do. And then the last part is this is the outcome the user is really looking for. This is how you help the user by delivering these outcomes. Now, as a bonus, you can additionally add one more section, and that's what it can expect from the user. You notice in some of those examples that I had, I said the user will give you a URL or the user will give you the topic, right? So you want to kind of prep it to expect something from the user if that's vital to it completing its job. And so this last section is simply what it can expect from the user or what it can expect from you. So 3 sections, critical. 4th section, really just optional if you have that degree of clarity. So who it is, what it does, how it helps the user, and what it can expect from the user. Those are the components that make up a great and really well-structured persona instruction. Now, going through the rest of this creation process here, this description area here, it's simply for you to help you remember when you're scrolling through the list of personas and you look at, the customer support agent, you can just have a brief description of what it does without having to look at the entire instruction. So you would just write something here like helps with customer support. Very simple, very brief. It's, single line, single sentence, just to help you remember when you're scrolling through the list, what does this persona do? Now, the other option we have here to sort of enhance these personas and really make them extremely specific to maybe data sets or information that you want it to consume or have access to at all times, we have the ability to upload data to train the AI on your own data. So you can upload here PDFs, documents, text files, spreadsheets, anything that you think will enhance the AI's knowledge that this persona would need access to every single time it generates a response. So this is great for, again, if you want it to follow a standard operating procedure and you already have that procedure outlined in a PDF, you can drop that PDF right into the data, or right here into the upload area. And every time that persona gets activated, it's going to have access to that information. Super helpful. Now, upcoming features, we're getting ready to release it this week, I believe. We're really working on this, but you'll soon be able to add actions to these personas. Let the persona be able to take sort of the liberty to, if it thinks it needs to perform a web search to get current information, you'll be able to activate that. You'll be able to activate image generation if you want it to be able to generate images for you. And soon a lot more goodies in that vein, which I can't talk about just yet. So once you've done that, once you've given it a name, set the instructions and a description, that's really all you need to have a perfect persona set up. You would save that persona and then it would be available to you from the list. And you would simply go over, start a new chat, and from the persona interface here, search for that customer support agent. I've got it right here. This is the new one we created because I wrote helps with customer support in the description. Select it from the list and now you have your customer support persona in the chat ready to serve you. So I hope that was helpful in managing. I guess I should touch real quickly on management of these personas. So if you do create a persona and maybe you want to make some tweaks and edits to it, just head back to the personas page and you can click the edit button here. And you can edit them at any time. You can change the instructions, change the name, description. You can add files. You can remove files that you've already uploaded, and so forth. And continue to edit and keep these personas updated if you need to. You can also share them with your team, just like sharing anything else throughout the interface. Create a share group. You can favorite these, and they'll kind of stay at the top of your personas list inside the chat. Or you can delete them. If you don't need them anymore, just hit the delete button and proceed through the deletion process. And that's how you manage your personas. Hopefully this was helpful to you. It really is probably one of the most powerful things about Magai. The ability to apply a persona instantly, have the conversation you need to have, and then switch over to a different persona and have a different persona take over. That sort of back and forth, allowing multiple experts in the room, so to speak, is a very, very powerful method. And if you master it, you can have the results like I did the other day, where you literally give it a handful of things and it can produce exactly what you need without any further edits. So until next time, go give it a try and we'll see you soon.